everybody! Look who I kidnapped. I got Jessica in my kitchen today. I am super excited to have her here with me. I can't wait. I was like speechless. I was like, oh my God, it's Jessica. Oh my God. But I wanted to, today we are actually going to spend some time because Jessica's had her Instant Pot a lot longer than I have. And you guys know that I am in love with this thing. I love my Instant Pot.
I don't know what took her so long to get one like this. Yes, I will hug it too.
I hug the Instant Pot.
I love my Instant Pot.
So today we wanted to share with you guys, because I know a lot of people, when I said, you know, I got an Instant Pot, people were like, oh my God, I'm afraid. I'm scared. I have one. It's in the box. I never took it out. You know, and I had it and I was like, it was sitting in the box for a while. I was like, nope. I'm going to take mine out of the box and I'm going to learn how to use it. And so Jessica flew all the way to California today, the day before her birthday, just to show us how to use an Instant Pot. But I have some tips and tricks to share too. So let's start with safety. The reason that I love this thing is because it is super safe. I remember growing up and my mom had that big old pressure cooker on the stove and it had that little teeter thing and it was like, oh my God. And she like, you'd have to stand there and then she'd take it off and put it under cold water and I'm like, ugh. So I was afraid of it. I was just like, I don't want a pressure cooker, and it scared me. And then Jessica's like, nope, this one doesn't do that. And I was like,
yeah, there's a lot of, like, I'm the same way. Like, I grew up, I mean, I actually was using a regular pressure cooker before I got this one. I've had my Instant Pot for about a year, maybe a little bit more than a year now. I can't remember. Well, I'm still learning. But yeah, the reason that I got it was because of the safety features. So they've got all sorts of safety features built in. The biggest thing that used to scare me with the traditional pressure cookers is fear of it blowing up, because I've heard horror stories of a pressure cooker blowing up and really severely injuring people. And I burnt myself. I had a really, really bad burn taking out most of my arm one time with the pressure cooker. So I've hurt myself on the traditional ones. So this one doesn't get, I mean, it gets a little bit warm on the outside, but it's not going to get super scalding hot to where you're going to burn yourself. The safety features as far as like monitoring the pressure, you don't have to worry about it heating up so high that it's going to explode or blow the top off. I mean, it's so much safer and so much easier. So you get all of the benefits of a traditional pressure cooker, which is great for cooking things like beans. Like, I'm from Denver, so high altitude beans literally do not cook unless you use a pressure cooker. Like, it's impossible to get beans soft enough.
Like beef stew in this thing, I made a really good beef stew. The meat was so tender.
Yes.
Like, so tender. And I was like, oh, I didn't know it could be that tender. Like, it was just deliciously good. And it's like, one thing I love about it too, well, which is like super easy, buttons. Like, it's like, what are you making? Meat. Okay, start. Done. Like, it's like you don't even have to think about it. It has all these cool buttons. And like, one of the things that I discovered, I was like, so somebody told me that I could set it and like set it for later. And Jessica was like, oh, let's check that out. And there is, on this lovely little Instant Pot, there's a timer button. And the timer button means that you can put, let's say you want to throw everything in there and then you want to run upstairs and get in the shower and do all that stuff. You can throw it in there and say, okay, in an hour and a half, start, because then I'll be back from the grocery store and do all that. It'll start in an hour and a half, and then when you come back from the grocery store, it'll just be finishing up, or the pressure will just be coming down, and it's already done. So you can do a future set timer. I used to have to rig my slow cooker to start later, and it's just not good. All I got to do on this one is just hit a button, and it will start. And I was like, oh man, that's great. It's got all kinds of like don't have to think buttons. It's got a soup button. Don't have to think. It's got meat stew. Don't have to think. Like, you just don't even have to think. You just hit it and walk away. And like, the cool thing too is like, if you know me in 20 dishes, you know I'm all about not having to think, which is why we use the simple food prep guide. You don't have to think about it. If you can read it, you hit the button, done. And I love that about it. Like, that is one of the best features that I have ever seen on anything.
Yeah, it really does make things a lot easier. And so like all of that's one other thing I forgot to mention about the Instant Pot that I like that you had brought up, that you get to set it and forget it. It's really like a slow cooker in the way that you can just, you know, put your stuff in it, set it up, and walk away. With a traditional pressure cooker, that was one thing my mom instilled in me. She said, you don't go off and leave it cooking. You need to stay in or around the kitchen to where you're paying attention to that pressure cooker. But we're all busy. Like, I don't have time to sit and babysit a pot on the stove. So this, you can turn it on and you can walk away and you know, do whatever you need to do, and it's totally safe. So yeah, it's got all these like preset buttons. And so these essentially mean like if you choose like the soup or the beans and chili, it's a preset time cycle in here. So it brings it up to a certain pressure, it cooks it for a certain duration. It's really like a no think, like you just hit the easy button and you don't have to think about it. But you can manually do stuff too. So there's a manual pressure setting that you can do, high or low pressure. You can set the time, so if you need to cook something specifically for 55 minutes or 73 minutes, you can do that. It goes all the way up to 2 hours. So for anything over 2 hours, then you do have to come back. I have a little thing, I'll tell you about that later, that takes like about 3 hours, so I have to come back and reset it for another hour after it's done. But really, I can be off working or cleaning the house or running errands or whatever I need to do, and I don't need to sit here and babysit it. So.
And the cool thing, well, what I had to learn about the pressure cooker, and I don't know if you guys know this, but the steam vent, so it's venting and sealing. And I made the mistake of, I was cooking the other day in it, and I left it on venting, and I was like, why am I hearing sounds?
Yeah.
And it was like,
things aren't going to cook when it's
cooking, right? It's not venting. It's supposed to be sealing. That's pressure. It's got to create pressure. So the venting thing though, sometimes there's a quick release and there is a natural release. Mm-hmm. And the natural release takes a longer time, depends on how much food is in there, but anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes mm-hmm. to naturally release, which means the pressure is just gonna, build up and then naturally release. There's also the quick release method where you just turn this to venting. Now you don't want to put your hand over it, obviously, because
mm-hmm.
steam is going to be coming out, but you just hit it to venting, steam comes out. Quick release allows you to open it immediately and do things like that. And from my experience and what I've read and talked to Jessica about, the quick release is for softer things like vegetables and things that don't need a lot of time to cook, rice,
mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. Well, rice you need to use the other one, but things that don't need a lot of cooking time. The natural release is for things that are like meat and they need a little bit longer cooking time. Things that foam up like beans, like you were saying that you couldn't, do beans in Denver without a pressure cooker.
Nope.
So beans need, anything that's going to foam and froth like that needs the pressure release, the natural release as well, not the quick release. So if you have meat or beans, things like that, like a chili, definitely you want that to sit in there. And also, when you have that pressure, the natural release, it makes that meat so much more tender. I'm so in awe of how much more tender the natural release it makes my meat as opposed to the quick release. And so I was like, I know that's something that people were questioning, like how the heck, which one do you pick? So that's a little bit on that one too.
You'll see it in different recipes. Like some recipes will say to do the quick release and some recipes will say let the pressure drop naturally. So the cool thing about this, when the pressure is up in the unit, you cannot.
Oh, it's the song of my people. I love that song.
I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I don't know if you can hear that, but it plays this little like ditty whenever you're unsealing and sealing the lid. But if there's pressure in here, you're not going to be able to take this lid off. So you don't have to worry about accidentally burning yourself or having your kids take the lid off when it's dangerous temperatures in here. So it stays sealed. So depending on the recipe, it'll indicate whether or not it needs to be the natural release or the quick release.
Yeah. So if it has like a lot of meats in it, or if it's really full, or if it has things that take longer to cook, you do want to do the natural release.
Yeah.
It'll make your meat a lot tender and more tender. Speaking of one-pot meals.
So yes, we love one-pot meals.
I was talking to Jessica and I was like, dude, you can just throw the whole, I can thaw it and throw it in there. She's like, thaw it? What are you talking about?
So I have talked about over on my page many times and even on my website how the Instant Pot has saved my butt a number of times for dinner. Specifically when it comes to making roasts, because for some reason, I don't know why I just don't remember to pull out the roast the day that I want to cook it. And so, you can cook your roast long and slow in the oven or in your slow cooker, but sometimes 3 or 4 o'clock rolls around and I'm like, crap, we're supposed to have roast tonight for dinner and it's still in my deep freezer in the basement.
Rock solid.
Yeah, rock solid. So I literally put this roast in the Instant Pot, frozen. I throw some seasoning in there, sometimes some Worcestershire sauce or a little bit of red wine, some herbs and stuff like that. And I let it go for 3 hours. If I have some extra time, I might let it go for 4 hours. But within 3 hours, it's completely cooked and it's tender and it's delicious.
That is crazy to me.
So, yes, you don't necessarily have to thaw everything. If you're like me and forget to pull things out of the freezer, you can put frozen stuff in here and have dinner done relatively quickly.
So I'm totally going to try that. You know that, right? I'll be like, Jessica, oh my God, like I did before when I
really
first got
hope it works for her, because if it doesn't, then I'm in trouble.
It'll work. When I first got it, I was like, oh my God, Jessica, this thing is from like God. And she's like, duh, where have you been? And so now I'm like, oh my God, I don't have to thaw it. I can just throw it in there. Speaking of freezing, this is like the coolest trick. I don't know if you guys know this, but
I didn't know it until today, and I'm like, I'm totally doing this. Mind blown.
This is how you should freeze your meals. So what I did is I found went to the dollar store or whatever, and I was like, that looks like it would fit right inside of my Instant Pot, like right inside. So I was like, oh yeah, okay, it fits. Well, instead of freezing things flat like we've all been taught to do, take your bag, put it in there, put all your little fun food in there that you're going to have for your one-pot meal, seal it right up in there, and leave it in there to freeze. Because it's going to freeze in that shape. And then when it's time to take it out, you can take it out, pop it right in there, and your food's, well, not the bag. You don't want to eat the bag.
Out of the bags, please.
Probably not healthy. Bags are not delicious. Okay, so you're going to take it out. And the shape will be this, and it'll fit right in there. And that way, you don't have those square meals that, that's not going to fit.
If this is frozen flat and you're like, well, this is certainly not going to fit in here anyway.
Not going to fit.
So
that thing, I was like, oh my goodness, that's freaking brilliant. And so freeze it in there, buy a couple of them, pop them in your freezer. Like I usually prep 3 to 5 meals at a time. And so 3 to 5 of these will fit in my freezer or my deep freezer over there. And that way, when it's time to take it out frozen, I can pull it out frozen and throw it in there. And then I can have like super meal in 2 to 3 hours and be done. But I was like, oh my gosh, it's freaking brilliant. So
and you may not even need to buy anything. Look in your pantry and your cupboards and see, just like get whatever bowl or dish or whatever, put it in the Instant Pot and see if it'll fit in there, and whatever size or shape it is. And if it will, use that and freeze your meals in that.
Yeah.
You just want it to not be flat and square, because flat and square doesn't fit in this bowl very well. So,
ain't gonna work.
So yeah, I love that idea. I'm actually planning a massive freezer cooking session when I get back home, and I'm so glad she told me about that, because I use my Instant Pot like every day. So I'm gonna be doing that, because I've done that with my slow cooker. I've done that even with like soup pots and stuff, where I'll freeze something in a big gallon Ziploc bag, and then I'm like trying to like chop down the edges to try to get it to fit in there so I can put the lid on it.
Like doing UFC moves, trying to get it in their pan. Trying to get it in, and it's like, oh my God, it was a workout just getting it in there.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I was like, when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's freaking brilliant. So that is one of the tips and tricks that I want to tell you guys about today.
Yes. And so speaking of meals, so not necessarily frozen, you can do one-pot meals in here. So this is like the benefit over just a regular slow cooker. This does have a slow cooker feature too. So you've got all the presets, but you also have a slow cook, a saute, and it's got a yogurt maker too if you guys want to make your own yogurt. I haven't tested that feature out yet. I think.
No, me either.
Orleatha's maybe going to do it soon.
Maybe.
But so yeah, what I like to do is, so you have a saute feature. So if you have, if you're using meat in there and it's supposed to be browned before you actually cook it, you don't have to go heat up a frying pan on the stove. You put a little bit of oil in the bottom of your Instant Pot insert, and that's what this pot is here. And so you just put a little bit of oil in there, you put your meat in there, you hit the saute button, and you can saute your meat, you can saute your onions and garlic, or if you have any other veggies that you want to saute first, you get that brown flavor developed. And then the brown flavor stays in there as you're cooking, so you don't even lose that scraping it in. You haven't dirtied another dish.
Right. Who needs another dish to wash?
I know, it's awesome.
I sure don't. I got 2 back there already, as you can see. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's awesome. And then...
But you can also do the your spices. So I'm one of those people, I like to, some spices I love to toast. Like cumin. Oh, I love toasting my cumin before. And if you're trying to develop a richer, deeper flavor, like in Indian dishes, you do your cumin, your cinnamon, and you get your nice spices toasted in there, and then you can just dump everything else in. I'm like,
yep.
I don't have to, and I can, so much, it develops so much deeper flavor.
Yes.
It does. So I love that saute feature.
Yep, and then to finish off your meal, for example, like I've made like sauteed chicken breasts in here before, so I brown the chicken breasts on the saute feature and add some onions and garlic and stuff in there. So they're nice and browned, and then I cook them for like 10 minutes And then if I want to do like a steamed veggie with them too, I, again, don't have to go heat up another pot or dirty another pan. When it's done cooking, I, do the quick release or the natural release, whatever one. And then I can take the lid off. I can put my vegetables in there, add a little bit of liquid if there's not liquid in there already, but just a little bit. And it has a steam feature on here too. So then I can steam my veggies. So I've done like, I did like a lemon asparagus chicken where I browned the chicken, cooked it, and then I removed the lid later and I put the asparagus in there and I steamed it for just a minute or so. And boom, dinner's done. All in one pot, no extra dishes, super, super easy. So,
and delicious.
Yes. So easy, so fast.
And you don't have to worry about, like in my slow cooker, what I kind of don't like about it is you can't really do that. Like if I want to make beef and broccoli, and I have to either come at the very end, throw the broccoli in there, mix it all up, and hope that it doesn't get all mushy. I don't like mushy vegetables. But the steamer, I'm like, I could just throw the vegetables in there, and it steams my vegetables. What? It's so much easier. I don't have to mess up a pot, and I don't have to have mushy vegetables, which makes me happy. All right, what else can we talk about? Oh, the ceiling fan.
I don't know if you guys can hear the little song, but she loves it.
She's laughing at me because I'm like, it's the song of my people. I love it. I love that song. It makes me happy because this Instant Pot is like saved my butt. Is it?
Than mine, yeah.
Oh.
Mine's square.
Oh, I'm a circle. You're square. We're different. So this is the ceiling ring, and you do have to change this from time to time, and it's easy to take out.
It's super easy. I actually had somebody ask me, they got intimidated about how to put the ceiling ring back in here, so we'll come over here. I don't know if you can see me. But the ceiling ring is really easy to pop out, so you can see it right here. I'm just popping this out with my fingers. And the ceiling ring can go in the dishwasher.
And you do want to wash it every now and then, you don't want to...
Sometimes, I know somebody suggested, was it you, to have a separate ceiling ring? Because sometimes it will absorb the flavor of whatever it is you're cooking, especially if it bubbles up and gets onto the lid. So if it gets kind of smelly, you can try using a little bit of vinegar and baking soda to try to like make it less stinky. Mine is, I'm going to have to get an extra one because mine's kind of smelly now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you can toss this in the dishwasher, and then it's really easy to pop back in. You just, like, I don't know if you can see, but it has like a little groove on the inside. Can you show? I'm like,
look at that. There's the groove. So there's a little groove.
And then there's like these little notches where it sits. It like tells you where to line it up essentially. And so you just stick it back in, and you just kind of stick this little lip, and the groove goes around. Ooh, I'm not very good at this. I apologize, people.
So the little notches,
they go around this like outer ring right here. So it just slides in, super easy. Pop, pop, pop. And then you just want to make sure it's completely popped in. It'll kind of latch in that inner groove, latches on that metal.
So you can see how mine, I missed a little spot when I was trying to help and I wasn't really helping. So I'm just going to push it down a little bit, and there, it snapped right back on. So now you can see around it where it is all the way around. Mine is wet right now because we had sweet potatoes for lunch. Oh
Cook your sweet potatoes in your Instant Pot.
This thing. Put them in here.
So
10
amazing.
Minutes. Silkiest sweet potatoes I've ever had in my life. I was like,
the skins were really, really tender, and the inside, literally, it was almost like eating whipped sweet potatoes without the being
and some Kerrygold butter. It was like
amazing.
We were like, we got silent when we were eating because it was so good. But if you haven't had sweet potatoes in this thing, do it.
Yes,
you will not regret it. So, and yeah,
so there really is very little maintenance on here. The ring, you'll need to just, I like to, when I take it out and wash it, I like to inspect it just to make sure it's not cracked or anything. You want to just make sure it still really has a good seal on it. But other than that, there's really nothing that you need to replace unless you lose. This is a little like
the little condensation catcher. Take this off every now and then and just pour the condensation out, give it a good rinse.
Yeah.
Because you don't want the old gross condensation. Well, condensation isn't gross, but if it's sitting there.
And sometimes, like if you fill your Instant Pot too full, it can sometimes foam up a little bit out of the spout, or you may end up with a little bit of like food particles in the condensation catcher. So you just want to make sure you clean it out so that it doesn't spoil and
pops off, pops on.
You can even run it through the dishwasher, I think. Yeah. I've never had to do mine.
I put it on the top shelf dishwasher.
Pretty good. What's the other thing? I saw another person suggest, this was just off the top of my head actually, you can buy a separate insert and keep it handy. So say you were making, you only have one Instant Pot. I seriously think I want to get 2 Instant Pots because I love it so much. But you can have a separate insert that you use, like say you were cooking some sort of meat dish in there, but you also needed to cook rice. You could, when the meat was done, you could pop it off and like stick it on your stove or put it in the oven to keep it warm. You could put your other insert in there to cook your rice, and then your rice is done, and then dinner's done. So,
hi, Catherine.
So that might be an extra. That's just if you want to do that. Yeah. So it looks like, hi, Angel. I know I can't. She said that she can't imagine her kitchen without her Instant Pot now. I am the same way. Like I seriously,
I was telling Jessica earlier. I was like, I have a regular pressure cooker. I don't use it because it scares me. Like that sound, like puts fear in my heart. Like I can't do that, so I don't do it. This thing though is a lifesaver. Now that I know I can go from frozen to cooked, it's even more of a lifesaver, especially since I'm freezing everything in this shape because I know it's my Instant Pot stuff. When I do my meal prep on 20 dishes, now I'm going to start putting them in here to freeze so that I can just drop them in there because we have Instant Pot recipes. So I just make sure that I got those together, pop them in my freezer, take them out, pop them in here. Done. I'm like, that is so easy. I love it. I'm so excited.
I know. Yeah, we are, we have a few Instant Pot recipes in there right now, but we're actually rolling out a whole Instant Pot category in November. So there'll be about 80 recipes, Instant Pot recipes to start, and we're going to keep adding to that as we develop new ones. And then we've got an Instant Pot e-cookbook coming out later in November. So end of November, early December is when we're going to have that one launched. So we are just obsessed with Instant Pots right now, and we want to share the love because it saved us both so much time that really I think every kitchen needs an Instant Pot.
And so we also want to make sure you had all of the tips and tricks that we have. As we get more, we will share them with you. And so stick around. You will see more Instant Pot. So thanks everybody for hanging out with us for the last few minutes, and we will see you guys around the kitchen.
Yay!
Bye!